out there, this is JD. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe, please hit like, and let's continue with this watch. This is an 1886 vintage Waltham pocket watch I've been working on, and I've got part of the assembly done. I did a lot of work on the mainspring barrel here, and let's see if I can assemble this beast and get it running again. So once again, even after cleaning, I'm finding that the main plate here has got corrosion on it, even after cleaning this thing. So the lesson I've learned here is that take the corrosion off the watch first, then put it in the cleaning machine. So doing it the other way around is just a little bit more painful. So it's not terrible, but it's still an issue. And there's not a lot of corrosion, but there's enough to be a problem. So I'll just clean this up just a bit. Like that, and then just get some Rodico out here and clean up the surface. Again, this is my pocket watch, folks, so next time I do this for a customer's watch, I will clean up the corrosion first, and then I will put it into the wash machine. Wash machine did a good job cleaning up the jewels and this sort of stuff, so I'll try to get this thing assembled a little bit quicker. I want to take off the these screws here so I can get access to the lower balance jewel and see if I have to do any work on this. The other thing is that my screwdriver, is that twisting properly? Yeah, it is. It's the other one that's causing a problem. So I remember doing work on this screwdriver. Make sure your screwdrivers are sharp and the right form, right? Otherwise, you're going to have other problems with screws. I'm trying, fumble McPants. I dropped the screwdriver. So I'm hoping to be able to get this plate out. I'm going to score this just a little bit. There we go. Now those lines, it's like a witness mark. Those lines will make sure that when I put this thing back, it's going to be the same. Now I could punch this out, or if I'm lucky today, I'll be able to lift it up. And if I'm unlucky, like I think I am, I won't be able to lift it up. I'll have to get one of the smaller screwdrivers here. I went for black and I probably should have gone for yellow, but I think I'll just punch this thing out anyway. I don't think, sometimes I can lift this straight up and work the setting, and other times, oh, there it goes. So I'm getting a grip on it here. It looks like it's coming up for me. There we go. It's a lot easier to do this because sometimes putting the setting back can be very difficult, but in this case here I've done this. Now I can work the setting. I need a piece of pegwood, wood from my friend Peg. I'm looking for some pegwood, folks. Where is la pegwood? Is it la pegwood or la pegwood? I gotta go find some pegwood. Here's my pegwood, but as you can see, I did a shellac experiment on the pegwood. So I'm going to have to break this pegwood there and then sharpen it up. Right? Be right back. So what I'm doing, see, I sharpened the pegwood up nicely, and I'm going in here to peg out this jewel hole. And also, while I'm pegging it out, I can clean up any leftover dried up oil on this, which is a handy dandy thing to do. There we go. So that's good there. I just have to make sure that that hole is clear. It doesn't have anything in it, and I think we're good. That's the jewel hole up there. And then I flip this over, which is the cap jewel here, and do the same darn thing with the cap jewel. Now, sometimes I'll wash this cap jewel in alcohol, but I do find that scraping it with the pegwood gets rid of all of the leftover gum on the top of it. Almost as good as I said alcohol, I meant lighter fluid. Almost as good as the lighter fluid. So it's just one of other many techniques of doing this stuff, right? I'm going to stretch out some Rodico here, and then hold the jewel setting here with my tweezers, nice and steady as she goes, and then just rub this with the Rodico ever so slightly. And then I will look at the angle I have here to make sure it's not dirty anymore. The funny part of this is I think that the other side is dirty. So guess what? I think I will throw this in alcohol. Alright, that's done, and it's clean as a whistle. So I'm going to now put this back, and I'm looking for the witness mark. So I had a witness mark on the back here that I put in this, and I just have to look and see where the witness mark is on the setting, and there it is. So if I line up this witness mark with the other witness mark, that's exactly where it was put in, right there. And I can push this down now, and you can often use the back end of your pegwood to push this back into place. Like so. The witness marks are perfectly lined up. I just have to make sure that this cap jewel is all the way down. But before you do that, you should put some oil in it. So here we're putting a little tiny dab of 9010 oil in there. And you don't have to put a lot. It's just a spot of 9010 oil, and that should do. Now I got to grab that cap jewel again with its nice beautiful witness mark and put that back in place. Just like I did last time, but this time not screwed up. There we go. It's kind of stupid to forget to put the oil in. That wasn't very bright, I gotta admit. But that's what I did. So again, I'm going to move this over here so you folks can see what I'm up to. So I was talking to Chris Spinner. It's funny, I used to have a friend called Chris Skinner in university, and I think he was number 15 with the Edmonton Eskimos football team. And I went to university with him. He's a nice guy. I'm not sure what he's up to these days. Probably a senator, a Canadian senator. There's a guy named Larry Smith who I used to know when I was a kid lifeguarding, and he swam a lot, so we became friends and taught me a bit about how to work out. And he is now a Canadian senator, which I thought, that's pretty cool. And not senator as in a hockey player, a senator as in a senator, a political senator. So there we go, plate-esque done. So that's done. Got to make sure I haven't forgotten anything else here while I put this back together. So that's good. The mainspring's in. Everything should be able to come down on this now. So I'm looking at everything. I think I'm good. I still need to put in the pallet fork. So the pallet fork on these full plate movements is a real pain in the butt. A bit of a pain in the butt. There's a long side and a short side to this pallet fork. So to the actual pivots in the pallet fork. So I believe that the short side looks like the screws have been taken off of this pallet fork at some point in time as well. So that's not good, but they're kind of at an angle, which is really odd. The screws are anyway. I'm going to put this down in a bench block for a second and have a look and see if I've got an issue with the screw angles here on this pallet fork. So I'm going to grab my bench block here and just, that'll allow me to put this down. Of course, not upside down, right side up. And I just want to check the screws on this for a second. So I'm going to put this down in one of the smaller holes so it's flat, and get my screwdriver out here and just kind of very carefully maneuver the screws here. I wasn't that careful, was it? No, they're down tight. They're tight and they're at a little tiny bit of an angle, which is, I don't think that's what the manufacturer would have done, but anyway, we'll leave it at that. So the way I put my pallet forks in is I usually, let me look at this pallet fork, so I think it ends up being long side down, which means the pallet fork has got to go in like this, and you got to make sure that the jewels are facing the escapement, right? So it's going to go in like this. One other thing I want to see in this pallet fork is you can see a little piece of dust on the end, and you got to make sure that it's absolutely crystal clean, or else you're going to have other issues, right? And I don't want to have other issues. Yeah. I'm going to put this together, and I'm not sure I can see. Alright, that's good there. Now let me just grab my tweezers here and see if I can place that pallet fork in the hole here nice and easy. It's long side down, which makes it a real bit of a pain to put these things in. That's why later on, remember this was 1886. Later on, they figured out better technique on how to do this. But in 1886, this is what you did. And the pallet fork needs to be between the banking pins, just like this, right? Now when I put this down, it's not going to stay in place, so my technique, I've got to take my glove off for this, I think, but my technique is to take a long strand of Rodico, like a little tiny strand of Rodico like that, and then I basically hold the pallet fork down with that Rodico. So just I press this down like that on the, press it on the watch. Let me just do this carefully here. I may need two tweezers here to do this, but let me just get this down like that. So I press this down on the plate so it's flat on the plate and has some grip on the plate. Then I move the nose part of this Rodico over onto the pallet fork and press it down there. So now the pallet fork is kind of stuck in place, and let me just show you what this looks like, and then I can install it, and then I'll nudge the pivots into place. So that's sort of like that, and I know that I do it on this side because I don't want the Rodico to interfere with the escapement and other parts of the watch. So I can now turn this around and put this down like that, so very carefully. Let me see if I can do this without screwing it up. And I'm assuming that the mainspring is in place right now. I'll know in a second if it's not. I should take a look. I should really take a look first, right? I just want to look upside down underneath the watch and make sure that the mainspring is sticking through the square ratchet wheel. So I'll be back in a sec. So the answer is it is. I just turned around and had a look, and it is. And now when I line this up, I should be able to just line it up without a problem. Like so, because I know where the mainspring is, and everything else should fall into place. So I'm just going to line this up like this and then place it down. Now some of the pivots won't go in right away, and that's no problem because that's kind of the way these things work. And I'm looking at where the all the holes are here. And kind of like that, right? Now I've got it like this, and what I do is I will put in a couple of the screws, but not tight. I'll put them in loosely, and of course I'm using the wrong screwdriver right now, but it's not bad for just doing that. So I'm putting this in, but not tight at all. Just this is so the plate doesn't pop out on me while I'm trying to nudge the pivots into place, right? That's the trick for when you're working. Let me get a bigger screwdriver here. When you're working on full plate watches, then the trick, I don't want my screwdriver to slip at all here. The trick is nudging these pivots into place. I remember the first one I did, I was going to kill somebody. I was like, oh my God, this is painful. So I don't need to put the third screw in yet. And now I've got to pick up the watch, the movement, and I'm going to go through the side here, and I'm going to use this device right here. And you can get this at your local hobby shop. And I'm going to go inside and nudge until the pivots all find their holes. So the first one I'll do is probably the pallet fork. So I'll be back when I'm finished my nudging. So I believe it's done. I don't know if you're new to watchmaking, this is probably the hardest part when you do a full plate movement, is to nudge this into place. But so in this case, the pallet fork was a little off, so I nudged that forward, and then the 1, 2, 3rd wheel wasn't coming through the pivot, so I nudged that over, and then everything just falls down, right? So, but I do recall the first few times I did this, I was so peed off. I'm still not tightening it completely until I absolutely know everything is in place, and I'll only know that after I remove the little piece of Rodico I put in there and free up the pallet fork, and I can put a little pressure. I'll put the mainspring plate on, I'll put a little pressure on the mainspring, and then see if the pallet fork snaps back and forth, and then I'll know I'm good. So I don't have to screw this down tight. So I'm just putting it down like that. It's not tight, but it's down far enough to hold everything in place. So there should not be an issue, right? So now I can take the this plate here. I'm going to put this down first before I take the Rodico out. Now, let me think here, because that's going to go over this screw. So I might tighten this screw down. Let me see if I'm not brave. I'm just going to put a little pressure on the mainspring here. I think we're good. I think we're good everywhere. So I'm just going to put, I don't want to tighten that until we're ready. So I'm a bit paranoid about this usually. So everything seems to be flat. I'm going to look at between the plate and the pillar that's holding there to make sure there's no gap, no spaces, and there is not. So that is down. That's perfectly down. So I don't have anything to worry about. So I'm going to tighten these up now, because it is down, because there's no space between the pillars. So, and if you do this and there is space and one of the pivots is not in place, then there's a huge risk of ruining this pocket watch, right? Because you will snap that pivot without a problem. There we go. Everything's tightened. Return of the Titans. Because I know this plate goes over that screw. That's why I needed to do that. So where is that plate? Where does it go? There we go. Goes right there. And now there's 2 more screws to put down. This one here. There's not a lot of real estate for these screws, I've noticed, right? It seems to not want to go down all the way. What's going on here? If you look at my what I've got here, is that the only possibility is that the mainspring is not dropped down far enough. No, it's down. It is down, ladies and germs. Yeah, there's no problem there. I'm looking at the gap. There's the gap, if you can see it. There's a gap in the bottom, and there's a slight gap in the top as well. I'm looking, I can see air through it, so there's an air gap. So I think it's just a matter of screwing these down, and we're good. So let's just see if I can get this one in here and screw that down in place, and These old watches, man, what's impressive is how they manufactured them. It's like, oh my God, how the hell do they know how to do that back then? But if you look at ancient Egypt, that was a long time ago. And how the heck did they know how to do all the things they did with the pyramids? It goes to say, if you're King Tutankhamun, man, they're going to spend a lot of time burying you. So now I want to check to make sure that I still have a decent gap on my barrel, and my barrel is not going to rub against the plate, and I do. So there is a gap. It's very small, but it's there. So if you can look at that gap in the top part, there's a gap in the barrel there and a gap on the bottom. If I look in here, I can see the ratchet wheel is there. So if I were to put a little bit of pressure through using a bench key, right, I can wind this up just a bit. Let's see if that works. Now I still have to take out the Rodico, so and that seems to be holding, which is nice. That's holding nicely, no problems. And then I still have to oil the tops of these, so we're going to do that in a second, but I want to take out that Rodico before I forget, right? And there's the Rodico right there. So I just have to reach in with my tweezers and grab that Rodico and pull up and back. It's just barely stuck on there, so it's not a big deal. I want to get in there and pull it out. There it is. Operation Rodico complete. Put that back where it belongs with the other Rodico. So now it's there. Now the question is, will this snap back and forth? And the answer is no. So it's not snapping back and forth. And I did put pressure on the why is that not? Oh, I see some stuff here. What is this? Hang on a second. There's some leftover something in here that's causing this not to snap back and forth. So I got to grab this. Whatever. I'm not sure how the hell that got in there. Look at that. Fuzz. How the hell did fuzz get in there? I'm hoping that solves the problem, though. It doesn't look like it doesn't look like it solved the problem, though. Let me look again at the wheels and make sure there's no issue here at all. It's always something, right? That looks free. This looks free. This sort of looks free. The only thing I can possibly think of is that the mainspring didn't go down enough. There is a gap there, though, so something's up in the state of Denmark here. So I'm going to have to look at this and see what's going on. I can see all the pivots through here. I don't think I've forgotten anything. There's the main. There's that pivots. I'm looking at all the other pivots. They're all the way through. Now, this watch was not working before, so it's going to be a little bit of diagnostics that I have to do. So I'll be right back. So I think this watch has got a problem with the pallet fork. That's my assessment of this watch. So I'm going to have to take it apart. I hate to say it, but I'm going to have to take it apart. And I'm going to have to look at the pallet fork to make sure I don't have an issue. And as I said earlier with that pallet fork, it looks kind of funky. So it looks like when the watchmaker screwed it back together, there's an angle on the screws. And I'm just going to have to look at this. I'm not sure how to measure its accuracy because an 1886 pallet fork. I am uncertain of how to measure its accuracy, but the bad news is I got to take the plate off again because there's no way it's going to work the way it is now. I put a little bit of pressure on the mainspring with my finger to see if the pallet fork would ride back and forth. and it doesn't. So the pallet fork is forked. So that's it for the video today. I'm going to publish it the way it is right now, and I'm going to show you a close-up of this pallet fork, and we're going to see what the problem is with this thing. I'm going to have a look at it right now, and it's odd. It is odd, especially the way the screws were put in. It looks like it's raised or something at one angle, and the screws were not put in correctly. And one of these jewels looks like it's sticking out too far. So the jewels themselves may have to be reset. So we're going to do some work on the pallet fork. As much as there's fun in doing that, I can't make this thing run again until I address this pallet fork. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to see if I can unscrew the top here of this pallet fork to get access to it, because it is funky, I'm telling you, funky. There we go there. Now that's really weird. Again, my watch, I don't think this thing ever ran. So the owner, I am the new owner of the watch, but the old owner of the watch must have not paid attention to this problem, because these screws here are effed up. So I might be able to solve the problem, but the screws are not correct here. Yeah, screw in 1 and screw 2. I think there must have been a real hack of a watchmaker who attacked this thing at one point in time. Just loosen the screw up here, and oh my God, right? Grab this screw and put it out of the way. And they weren't flat, which is weird. The screws were at an angle. So someone had screwed this thing back together. There it is there. It looks like it's in good condition, but they may have screwed up the threading on this thing. And if I look at this, if you look at this up close here, see if I can get a close-up of this thing. It's like the land of shellac on it. Yeah, it's the land that shellac forgot. That is what it looks like. And it looks to me as though one of the jewels was not seated right. So it's kind of what it looks like there. So I'm going to see if I can clean that up and put the jewels back correctly. And see if I can get a good sample of another one maybe, and that will help me. So that's the pallet fork there, and I think it needs some work to get this thing working again. So we're going to take the watch and put it back in the where it belongs to rest, and then I'll just do some work on the pallet fork to see if I can clean that up and get it back in working order. So anyway, so thanks a lot, JD. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for watching my channel. This is an interesting video, to say the least.